Unless you were an omniscient being, you probably missed a lot of stories over the past month. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. According to an earnings report by Electronic Arts, the highly anticipated Jedi Survivor is still on track for its planned March 2023 release date. This will probably surprise most viewers who haven't heard much about the sequel to 2019's critically praised Jedi Fallen Order, but according to industry insider Jeff Grubb, this is all part of the plan. Grubb explains that the game is the first in EA's marketing strategy, which will now focus on a much shorter marketing window before release, which is not only more cost effective, but can also allow a more intense campaign before launch. Considering the end of the year tends to be a bombard of new releases, to take advantage of the holiday window, it makes sense for Electronic Arts to save their marketing budget for the new year. The news coincides with other sources, suggesting that Disney intends to release a new Star Wars game every 6 months. This strategy would rely on one AAA title releasing once a year, as well as another smaller game to act as a bridge between the bigger releases. Electronic Arts had previously signed a 10-year exclusivity deal to develop all big-budget Star Wars games back in 2013, but the release of Jedi Survivor marks the deal coming to an end. As of right now, there are 8 confirmed Star Wars titles in development, and a million more well on the way. Respawn Entertainment is currently working on both an open world title, as well as a strategy game. Quantic Dream is currently working on the very intriguing Star Wars Eclipse. Ubisoft is currently developing an open world game, and Saber Interactive is still trying to make the KOTOR remake work. EA's track record for developing Star Wars titles have been hit and miss to say the least, but for fans of the franchise, it'll be nice to know that pretty much any studio with enough money for licensing will have a shot at their own spin on the Star Wars universe. Around 4 minutes after our previous gaming news went live, Google would announce an end to its Google Stadia console, adding yet another product to its pile of abandoned ventures. In a blog post released late last month, Google announced that the platform didn't gain the traction it had expected, and that they had made the difficult decision to close down services for the console just over 3 years after its launch. It wasn't all bad news, however, as the company would announce that it would refund all hardware and game purchases made through their storefront. Game saves, on the other hand, were a different story, which left companies like CD Projekt Red, Ubisoft, and Bungie scrambling to find ways to transfer save files to other platforms. Stadia developers themselves weren't so lucky, as many game devs who were halfway through their own projects found out about the platform's closure in the same way as everyone else. Stadia's uniqueness was characterized by its entire catalog being available through streaming, meaning, as opposed to downloading a game directly onto your hardware, it would all be streamed in real time to the player's screen of choice. Although the advantage of being able to play a game immediately is a novel concept, it also required a fast and stable internet connection, and still left the player contending with input lag. Furthermore, unlike a service like Game Pass, for example, games would still need to be directly purchased at full price.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Which many saw as a missed opportunity for their business model. The gaming sector is now bigger than the film and music industry combined, and if a tech juggernaut like Google struggles to find a foothold, it's likely that Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft will continue to rule the market for the foreseeable future. The long-awaited Overwatch 2, a glorified update of the first game, finally became playable this month, ending what was a 3-year wait since the game's initial announcement. The launch of the game was controversial to say the least, owing to its sequel branding, shifting expectations beyond the content that was delivered, and a new free-to-play monetization model, which is objectively less consumer-friendly than the first game. Another issue included the need for all new players to link their account to a valid phone number, a measure designed to curtail smurfing, a problem which had become particularly prolific leading up to the sequel's launch. Overwatch 2 also faced several waves of DDoS attacks during the first week after launch, which compounded frustrations for new players joining the game.
There are 0 players ahead of you. well, that's good to know. You can let me play the game now?
Despite these issues, and many more, the first 10 days saw the player count rise to a staggering 25 million players, and as of the end of October, it sits above other titans of the streaming space, such as Valorant and League, only bowing to Dota 2 in the current Twitch charts. We at the news team have internally debated all month about whether Overwatch 2 has reached a new high watermark for the series, but viewers who want to hear my very in-depth take on the game's current state and the context of its development can check out a video I recently uploaded this month. Overwatch is dead. Long live Overwatch. Meanwhile, Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a remaster after 5 years on the market. CD Projekt Red announced 5 new projects in development, and Starfield is revealed to have over 250,000 lines of dialogue, making it 4 times as much as Skyrim. The Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard is still jumping through regulatory hoops around the world, and although this month saw the nation of Brazil give the thumbs up for purchase, the company is still making its way through British regulators.
I certainly hope you've got a license for that now.
Sony Entertainment have continued to fight tooth and nail to stop the deal from going through, arguing that Microsoft gaining exclusive rights of Call of Duty in particular would be harmful for competition. Microsoft, however, has argued that Sony is currently much larger in terms of overall market share, and stated that even if every single Call of Duty player migrated to their platform, PlayStation would still be the biggest console seller by a large margin. The news follows previous comments made by Microsoft, which assert that no games developed by Activision Blizzard are quote, must have titles, a comment made to secure the acquisition by trying to downplay the significance of the company they just paid $69 billion to outright own. At the same time, many argue that Sony itself is acting hypocritical in its condemnation of Microsoft, as console-exclusive titles have been a staple of PlayStation's business model since time immemorial. In any case, we can probably expect to see more of these industry giants attempt to downplay their success for their own benefit, all the way up until the deal goes through. It's not often that the Sims series makes headlines for anything other than the insane price of its DLC, but this month saw Electronic Arts unveil a title that looked awfully like a new entry into the now 22-year-old series. The early build of the game, currently titled Project Renee, is still pretty light on details, but a short preview showed off a more robust build mode, which appears to cater to players who can appreciate attention to detail. The developer stated that it would likely be several years before this new Sims project would be ready for launch, which prompted some fans to speculate whether this unveiling was in response to upcoming indie game, Paralives, which seems to be leaning into the same life simulation genre. Not much else is known about the new Sims project, but it's been confirmed that the game is both cross-platform between PC and mobile, and that it also intends to include components of multiplayer. No word was given on potential monetization, but if The Sims goes free to play, God help us all. In early October, it was announced that Platinum Games, the creators of the Bayonetta series, would be moving on from the voice acting talents of Helena Taylor, who voiced the iconic character in the first 2 games in the series. The game studio would later announce that the mantle would be taken up by Jennifer Hale, perhaps best known as Female Shepard from the Mass Effect series, and one of the most prolific voice actors in gaming. Taylor would take to Twitter in response to the news, asking fans of the previous entries to boycott the 3rd installment in the series, stating that Platinum Games had lowballed her when initially offering the role. Taylor went on to say that she was offered a flat rate of $4,000 to reprise her role in the new title, and stated that the figure was insultingly low for the work. Taylor would later double down on these comments, stating that her replacement has no right to say she is Bayonetta or to sign merchandise related to the franchise. This unsurprisingly led to significant backlash towards Platinum Games, which even spilled onto some fans harassing Jennifer Hale. Hale would later respond by stating that her non-disclosure agreement prevents her from talking about the game in any capacity, but wished that all parties would be able to resolve their differences in a respectful way. Fast forward to a few days after the news initially broke, and legendary gaming journalist Jason Schreier would reveal that multiple sources within Platinum Games had disputed Taylor's claims, and that she was instead offered $4,000 per session, over 5 different sessions, amounting to a total of $20,000. It was also reported that Taylor rejected these terms, asking for a 6-figure payment along with residuals. Taylor would ultimately call these reports a lie before announcing that she wanted to put the entire franchise behind her. Whether this entire situation devolves into a legal dispute or damages the reputation of either party is yet to be seen, but it's highly likely that neither side is going to come out unscathed. Meanwhile, Sony buys the rights to a GameStop stock market movie. Mark Zuckerberg still can't understand why no one likes his company, and Valve registers a trademark for a new video game titled Neon Prime. Fans of the Silent Hill franchise had a lot to celebrate this month, as Konami has gone full steam ahead in its efforts to revitalize the franchise. The first announcement was the expected, but long anticipated Silent Hill 2 remake, which will be developed by Bloober Team, and is still currently in early development. Next up was a spin-off title, called Silent Hill Townfall, which is expected to take a narrative focus over gameplay, although there really isn't much beyond speculation as it currently stands. The next game was Silent Hill F, a narrative-driven title set in 1960s Japan, and not only does this not even have a release window, but it doesn't even have a list of launch platforms. Perhaps the biggest surprise from the showcase was Silent Hill Ascension, which allows anyone in the world to participate in controlling characters in-game, similar to the Twitch Plays Pokemon events. To round off the show, it was also announced that a third movie was being developed, titled Return to Silent Hill, which will be retaining its original director, Christoph Gans. In terms of new releases, October saw the launch of Overwatch 2, Modern Warfare 2, Gotham Knights, Scorn, Victoria 3, Bayonetta 3, and new Tales from the Borderlands. November is also set for another sizable month of releases, seeing the launch of God of War Ragnarok, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, World of Warcraft Dragonflight, Sonic Frontiers, and Arctide. Viewers who want to keep up with news from all around the world can tune in for our regular news coverage before the end of the month. But until then, may your grind be short, and may your wish list be long.